Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. There are two papers, one in Russian and one in English, in our folder. One devoted to the initiative One Belt, One Road, on Eurasia, and the other has to do with trade relations between Italy and Eurasia. Let me start making one consideration. The 5 countries of Eurasia as a whole account for 4% of the world GDP, just 4%. But if we look at the percentage on international trade, well, they account for 2%. If we look at the investments, well, they account for 2.2%. So the economic weight of this area would deserve much greater international trade with direct foreign investment that should be much higher than the one that we see, considering that they include 180 million inhabitants. There are many competition indexes, but in this case, we considered the Logistics Performance Index, which looks obviously at international trade. You see that Russia ranks 99, whereas China ranks much higher. And this tells us about the reasons for this low rate of change. We know that the economic importance of this area is higher than the percentage of international trade. So there are infrastructures on which we should invest. And the public sector should contribute much more. As a matter of fact, there are as much as 60% of the public investments when it comes to infrastructures. Now we have budget constraints, so we should look at the involvement of private capital, private investors. So we have to attract private investors so as to strengthen the infrastructures in this area. Foreign direct investment in Eurasia account for over $500 billion, with Italy accounting for 8 billion, 1.4%. But there are over 700 companies that are present in the Eurozone. So there is a great need for investment. And then there's a recent innovation to be considered, i.e. the One Belt, One Road initiative that started off in China. But over time, China proved to be much more inclusive. At the beginning, this initiative seemed to be just 100% Chinese, but China along the way understood that they couldn't do everything by themselves, but they should involve other countries. And what is the underlying rationale for One Belt, One Road? Well, that is promoting growth, promoting development, and regional cooperation. In a world that has very much focused westward, well, now China is promoting an initiative which is eastward bound. Well, the project is very complex. For further information, you should look up at the report in the folder. But let me just say that there are 6 main projects, 6 corridors involving both sea and land that improve competition and connections between China, Russia, and Europe. So this initiative is a point of reference to lead and promote development with reference to infrastructures. There are 2 corridors that at this point in time are most important when it comes to our relationship with Eurasia, and those are the new Eurasian land bridge, and the China-Mongolia-Russia corridor. Other projects are more focused on Asia proper. Let's go to figures. Over $5 trillion are involved. Politically speaking, this could be a preamble of free trade agreements between China and Russia. As a matter of fact, a free trade area could be established between the Eurasian Union and China. Not in the end, indeed, Russia became the third shareholder in the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, contributing 6% of the funds, so ranking third after China and India among the investors. Now, unfortunately, there's no time to dwell on the individual projects, but let me just point to one important thing, i.e. the most important project that involves a high-speed railroad between Moscow and Kazan, which falls again into the general heading of the connection being established between Beijing and Moscow to later reach Rotterdam and the major ports in Europe. As to the financing of such projects, well, they'll come from multilateral institutions. We already referred to the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. Then we should also refer to a number of funds that are already committed to a certain extent. And then there are Chinese banks that have already been involved. So there's a body of initiatives that are extremely interesting underway. What is the role of Italy? This is the second part of my presentation. And I'll be very rapid on that. Well, Italian building companies changed completely. Just look at this chart. International turnover over the past decade grew 4 times, shifting from 3 to 12 billions. So there are building companies, large-size engineering companies that are ever more targeted towards international markets. Here you see the share as divided for different brackets, for different size of companies. You see that the percentage of work being carried out abroad is over 60%, especially so for the larger size companies. So you see here that there are companies that can adjust to different situations, that can boast high professional skills, with most skilled staff that gets appreciated worldwide. So the total amount of contract for the Italian building companies account for 87 billion euro. This is last year's figure. Of course, this year we are going to have a further increase. So it might be very risky to block contracts that are already underway, and especially these are the areas involved: railways, roads and bridges, hydraulic works, subways. And this is true the world over. Now, with specific reference to Russia, there are 3.8 billion of euro of ongoing contracts in Russia, which accounts for 1.4 billion of the new contract in 2015. Russia is one of the countries with the most important features for the Italian building companies. Why is that? Well, because Russia is rich in raw materials, less so in terms of infrastructures. So there's a very strong potential demand for further infrastructures. Well, I believe that we can find ourselves in a win-win process. And yet, I understand that political difficulties are there, that they're certainly not negligible. But the business community could contribute to do something important for the well-being of citizens, creating prosperity, trying to overcome the existing political difficulties. Such political difficulties are not to go to the detriment of the business community, are not to have a negative impact on the business community, and trade relations cannot be sacrificed in the sake of to solve problems that are only political in nature. Thank you.